I think all of these delivery apps are a problem, not just because they pose very clear workers' rights issues for immigrants and native citizens alike, in the sense that oftentimes these people are getting paid less than the state, or in some cases the federal minimum wage, because they're billed as contractors who are doing tipped work. So they don't have to abide by the same labor laws as the rest of the companies in the world that have you hire a car to bring things to you. You know, Domino's drivers will get paid like $20 an hour in my shitty, well below the national cost of living town. I'll just put it like that. Like, here you could make $12, $13 an hour and be fine. Like, you don't even have to make 15 in this town. But if you work at Domino's, you're getting paid $20 an hour. And the pizza there's not miraculously more expensive. The prices aren't that crazy. They're pretty normal. But that's the starting wage to just drive pizzas to places. And you still get tips because people, as a kind of obligatory cultural thing, like, they'll tip. They feel bad if they don't tip. I know it myself. So it's not like there aren't places that you can get delivery from that have relatively low fees that pay their workers pretty well. Like, I think Domino's, it's like $5 or something you're paying for the delivery. It's not much. But with all these other stores that don't have their own delivery infrastructure, that didn't plan for that when they came out, never adapted, these apps are very useful to increase their consumer base. And it's good for the people who own the app as well, because they can start it up with tons of venture capital money and exploit as many people as possible with relatively no consequences, right? But there's a deeper problem to this, right? Like, beyond just the human concerns for the people who have to work at these companies because one job isn't enough, or maybe they can't find a job, or in some cases 2 jobs isn't enough depending on where you're living. If you have kids, definitely 2 jobs is not enough. And in a state like mine, where people will have unsafe sex because there's not really sex education in school, and then abortion is illegal, they end up with a bunch of kids. What can you do? I mean, I know what I would do in that situation, but you know, not everybody has that education. You know, their parents don't necessarily tell them about the real consequences of a lot of this stuff. They straight up like don't know how it works. So you find these people who are just going through life, and one thing leads to another, and the first company that can exploit them is going to exploit them because they're desperate. They can't live or sustain themselves otherwise. And so, you know, we're looking at a situation now where the human cost of these apps is real. It's driving down wages. It is leading to people working, in some cases, long hours for much less than you would at some other jobs. So I don't like that. But moreover, I don't like the impact that this has on human relationships, like how we interface with society. Because if you're a NEET or a hikikomori, especially, these delivery apps are incredible because you never have to interact with a single person. You can place your order in, they put it at the door if you choose the option to not have it handed to you, and there you go. It's done, right? There's some problems with that, I think. Because the less social interaction you're getting, like let's say you're maybe not anxious, but you're just really awkward. Those traits are going to be exacerbated by the less exposure you have to the outside world, to situations which challenge you. So the more you find yourself relying on these apps, and it will be more because it's an addictive kind of slippery slope that you get into and realize, wow, I didn't have to embarrass myself today and relive the memory and trauma of that one interaction over and over in my mind. Wow, I don't have to see that person again when I go out. All of these things can be totally avoided when you're just using delivery apps, but it basically incentivizes you to continue thinking that way because your brain is going to intuitively start to think, well, those sorts of thoughts are protecting me. I thought that way about those difficult situations, difficult in quotations, and I avoided them, and then I was comfortable and safe, so actually thinking this way is going to keep me safe. And it's this vicious cycle because now these thoughts are becoming more prominent, they're having more control over your life, and it only snowballs into something worse over time the more that you indulge them. The more that you find your behavior being commanded by these thoughts, controlled by them. No, you have to act in spite of them. You have to get out into the world, into those difficult, awkward, messy situations, and have it happen so many times that eventually you just feel comfortable being there. And maybe you're a little bit rusty, it's been a moment since you've done it, and it can be demotivating because it's like, oh man, I spent a month inside the house, I tried to go out, and it was like so much harder for me than the last time I went out there. That's a real thing that can happen to people if they're not going out every day or every couple of days. But you've got to start somewhere. You know, that progress you made before isn't lost progress. It's something that exists in the recesses of your memory. You just have to bring it out somehow. You gotta brute force move your way through this world and this system. And then you will ultimately feel better about these issues plaguing your mind. It's a journey I've been going on. You know, there was a time when I was out and about so much that I actually began starting up conversations with pretty much anybody that I had to interact with, like in a mandatory way. Like I'd go into the store, I just chat with the person. And even though I'm naturally introverted, it would feel very good to do that because it would feel kind of like, yeah, you know, I'm paying attention to them. They have to deal with sometimes difficult people. They have to stand in this one spot all day. I know how that is. And yet, I am paying them attention, paying attention to them, and giving them my time of day, giving them my, my thoughtfulness. And that's an important thing to do, right? To see those smiles on the other person's face, you know, to make them feel like they're listened to. Now, I one of the things I like to do is when I was working at the hotel here in town. I had to work on Christmas, and I remember I was being given my change back by this cashier lady, and it was like $5 or something, not a huge amount, but hey, if you're working as a cashier in a gas station, probably not making that much money. And I was just like, no, keep it, Merry Christmas. And she had this huge like smile on her face. She was like, oh, thank you, thank you. Like, we don't think of service workers in this way, right? We think of these people as these kind of expendable non-individuals that don't have feelings, that they're there to provide a service, to function in a certain way. And the truth is, all of us could be one of those people. You know, I was one of those people in a different industry, albeit, but doing the same thing nonetheless, providing a service. And you get people who don't see you as human. You get people who are very difficult with you because in those little moments, they want to be the boss. They want to feel like in the midst of all of their alienation and dissatisfaction with the world, they can be that person who was berating them for not doing a good job. They can be that millionaire that they believe they are just a temporarily embarrassed version of. And so, in those moments, at that time, they are able to kind of find that inner psychopath inside of them and take it out on you, so they can be just like the boss that they dream of being, who abuses them every day. And this is a product of contemporary neoliberalism in our society, and the learned helplessness that we've developed in the face of global capitalism, which essentially functions to separate working people from the means of production, and the product of their labor. And so this basic dynamic of alienation is something that you're going to see ripple all throughout the economy and have an effect on the broader culture, how we treat each other. But we're also individuals who can make decisions about things. Like, for as much as I talk about these systemic matters and how they impact people's behavior, we also have the ability to make a choice. And I think in some small way, it's food for the soul to just be nice to people who work in these positions. Just not expecting anything in return, not trying to do anything. I mean, I've done nice things for some of these people and gotten no reaction out of it, because I wasn't doing it for the reaction. I found myself doing it again, because that's not what it's about. It's about attempting to make a positive impact. It's not always going to exceed, but the attempt is what matters. Attempting to make a positive impact on each and every person that you encounter. This is very important. It's important for those around us, and it's important for ourselves, because it will fill the soul. It will fill the soul if we try to bring that kind of energy wherever we go. And learning that lesson and coming to see things in this way was one of the things that helped me get over some of my fears of going out and doing things, and helped me get over some of my reliance on the delivery stuff for, basically all my needs. There was a time when I was getting deliveries for everything because I was just so scared of going outside. And I'm not at that point anymore. And it changes. It starts with a couple simple decisions. Just going out, saying hi to people, and trying to weather the storm of your anxiety enough to do that again and again. And then you open up a bit more. You start to see, hey, there's nothing wrong with myself. There's nothing wrong with my presentation. If someone feels that they're wrong. That's their opinion. They've probably got some unresolved issues of their own that they're just imposing on me. And coming to these realizations it will have an impact on like everything about how you see the world and how you interface with it. But they come one by one as a product of the other. So this realization happens because of that one, and so forth. They build. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. But you do see your perception of all these different things changing, and that's an experience that you can totally forego if you just rely on the delivery apps. But as a result, you prevent yourself from improving and becoming a more functional member of society. And even if you don't buy into, that framing of a person's development, in a very simple way, you can become a better version of yourself because you will feel better. So from like a totally, self-interested, hedonistic perspective, it's also good to focus on these things as far as mental health is concerned. And that's one of the most important things to focus on, right? A happy mind is going to produce better output. You're going to be more productive. You're going to feel better. You're going to think more clearly. You're going to be more organized. You're going to be better to the people around you, and in turn, those people will be better to you if they're good people, which is another thing I might make another video about, like how to actually find good people and how to tell when people aren't so good. Not to say I'm an expert, but the couple things I have learned I'd like to share. And so all of this, all of these different things I'm talking about, they work in relation to one another. They work in tandem. And so it's important to recognize. I'm trying to think. See, I don't write notes before I make these videos. I just start listing shit. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to talk about, because this happens all the time. Like, I'll start a video and I'll give a bunch of information, make a bunch of arguments and points, and after the video's done, I'll be like, oh shit, I really should have brought that up. I really should have went into this thing in more detail, or brought this thing up that didn't come up. It's very frustrating for me. Trying to think. No, I think that's literally everything. Yeah, delivery apps are the devil. Human interaction actually is good, even if it's very simple, very forgettable. If you're able to be positive and good in those situations, make people feel good around you, then you did a good job. Even if you just did neutral, you were just neutral, the fact that you weren't bad to the person is also a dub. That's also a win. Because there's definitely people out there who will choose, actively to be bad, and those people are terrible. Not irredeemable, but they're making some terrible decisions because they've got some wrong-headed ideas about the world. Or maybe they just don't care. But whatever the case may be, it should be the goal to care. And the first part of caring about the world, about others, is caring about oneself. It's looking after number one so that you can begin to look at all these other things as well. Of course, that's kind of a simplification. Obviously, there's a degree to which community and society is going to help you care about yourself more, and so those things are indispensable. You need them, but that's all the more reason to get the hell out of the house and try and become more comfortable with those day-to-day interactions. So that's that.